Go Ducks! Hi, my name is Barak Stringer. I am a recent graduate of the Conflict and Dispute Resolution Program at the University of Oregon School of Law. And I was asked to make a video basically over giving a brief overview of my thesis that I wrote for the CRESH program. In doing this and in selecting my research topic, I chose something that was very near and dear to my heart, which was sexual assaults. As a person who's been a victim of sexual assault and also has friends who have been victims as well. I took this subject to be very serious, and it was just very personal for me, and it was easy for me to have the passion to really want to do the research behind it. More specifically, I was back during 2015, 2016. I'm a big college football fan, and it just seems like there were incidents after incidents after this incidents, like, i.e. Baylor, just like the mishandling of sexual assaults, the prevalence of sexual assaults. It really, was in the forefront of my mind. So it wasn't really hard for me to pick my subject. It was more difficult in what route did I want to go? Did I want to do, focus on football players? If I wanted to do, just something that was peer-based, focused on men. And I ended up just focusing on sexual assault prevention programs overall because this sexual assault prevention programs are a good way for us to circumvent the high prevalence of sexual assaults that occur on college campuses. They're kind of like that first base, that initial contact that you have. Most universities, it's almost like it's a required course or it's required training that you have to go through during your first year. And so it's really interesting to look at different sexual assault prevention programs to see what works and what doesn't work, especially since there should be a more focus. There should be a focus on getting men to participate. And so that was kind of like the core of my thesis was like, how do we gain men's participation in sexual assault prevention programs? Because research has shown that the men's participation is relatively low. And it's basically, in my opinion, it seems almost as if because it's kind of like put off as a woman's issue when it's really not just a woman's issue because it's not like it's the women out here raping women at a high prevailing rate. I mean, at a prevailing rate, it's men, that are doing, who are raping women, and it'll take men's participation in these sexual assault prevention programs to really, I guess, help men to find a way to actively participate, to get involved, to be a force of nature against sexual assault against sexual assaults that are occurring on college campuses. And so, as I stated earlier, my research focused on ways to get men involved. And so, first, I looked at the high prevalence that occurs. I believe that it says that 19% of women will be raped at some point during their college experience, and that alone is just it's really scary to just think about it. I just thought about it. If I was a dad dropping my daughter off, for college, that would be a really big fear of mine, knowing that like 19% of women, that's like 19% sounds relatively like low, but it's too much. Like that's not low. That's a lot of that's especially like say you have a university of 45,000 students and just let's just guesstimate that let's say 20,000 are female, so 19% of that 20,000, like that's too many. That's so. I looked at the high prevalence that sexual assaults occur on college campuses and highlighted, just that's the issue in itself. And so I looked at sexual assault prevention programs and seeing what worked and what didn't work, and also more specifically, what ways could we encourage men's participation in sexual assault prevention programs. So I looked at different programs such as sexual assault risk reduction programs, sexual assault, alcohol and education programs, sexual assault and self-defense and things like that to see what really works. But the core of this, like, none of it really works if men aren't participating. because it's the men that are doing the raping. So it's like, how do we encourage men's participation so that, whether they can spot it or they can know what behaviors constitute rape or sexual assault, just so that, we're educating. And through education, we're hoping that, it reduces the level of sexual assaults that are occurring on college campuses. And so I looked at the hindrance, and one of the hindrances was rape culture, and another one was rape myths. Those are two prevalent hindrance forces that keep men simply from participating in sexual assault prevention programs. And I also looked at, where should we go for future recommendations? How can we get men more involved? And, I looked at, maybe if we had, male to male peer leader groups, whether it was something that was mandatory for men coming into college and things like that. And so overall, it's important for men to participate in sexual assault prevention programs. It's really important, and it's as simple as, you're stopping the cancer at its root right there, when you're giving the materials to men, letting them know what actions are constituting sexual assault, what situations increases the likelihood of men sexual assaulting, i.e. using alcohol, especially if it's in a vengeful way. And so that was kind of like the focus for my thesis, and I was to work.